All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're talking about a massive shift in how the internet works. We're looking at a move away from a world where these giant companies own our digital lives to one where, we're finally back in the driver's seat. And it all kicks off with one really simple question.
Who really owns your online identity? I mean, seriously, think about it for a second. Your accounts, your social profiles, all your data. Is it actually yours? Or are you just borrowing it from whatever platform you're on? This one question, it gets right to the very heart of everything we do online. And you know what? The answer to that question, for pretty much all of us, is probably not the one we want to hear. To really get why and to see where we're going next, we first have to take a quick look back at how the web's original promise got a little, broken.
Yeah, this slide lays it out perfectly, right? The dream of the internet was this direct peer-to-peer connection. Your data was supposed to be your data. Your identity was supposed to be your identity. But what we got was different. We ended up with an internet run by these massive centralized servers. Our identities are basically just rented from big corporations, and our data, that became the product they sell. And the worst part? These centralized systems create these huge honeypots of our information, making them absolute gold mines for hackers.
But hey, it's not all doom and gloom. This isn't where the story ends. The internet is always evolving, and now it's building towards something that people are starting to call Web4.
So, what on earth is Web4? Well, if you think about Web3, that was all about decentralized assets, right? Like cryptocurrencies. Web4 is about us. It's about weaving our actual human identity into the very fabric of the web, but, and this is the important part, doing it in a way that keeps us in control. The focus finally shifts from our stuff back to ourselves.
And the engine that makes all of this work is something called the UID. That stands for Unique Individual Identity. The best way to think about it is like a portable, verifiable digital passport that you actually own and control, not some tech giant. This is the bedrock, the absolute foundation of this new identity-first web.
Okay, so a cool concept like UID is one thing, but how do you actually use it in the real world? Well, that's where a platform called VIVON comes into the picture. And its goal is incredibly simple: to get rid of the middleman.
VIVON is built on this really radical idea called Zero-Server-Intermediation. Now, that sounds complicated, but stick with me, because the analogy is perfect. Imagine you're sending a postcard. The internet we have now is like a post office that reads, copies, and stores every single postcard you ever sent. This new model, though, it's like having your own private courier who takes your sealed letter directly to your friend with absolutely no one peeking in between. And let's be real, this is how pretty much everything works today. Every message we send, every call we make, it all gets routed through a central server that can watch, log, and keep it all. That's the central point of control, and it's also the single biggest point of weakness.
With Yvonne, though, poof, that central server is just gone. By using this UID infrastructure, the connection is made directly between you and the other person. A true, clean, private peer-to-peer connection. That's it.
And don't think VIVON is just another messaging app. It's way more than that. It's a whole communication suite built on this idea. So instead of using your phone number, which, let's face it, is controlled by a telecom company, it uses your UID for chats and calls. It even brings in eSIM technology for global data, bridging that gap between your physical phone and your sovereign digital self.
All right, so that's a lot of tech talk. But what does this all actually mean for you? Why does this matter? Let's break down how this new model fundamentally protects your privacy and security.
This chart just says it all, doesn't it? On one side, you've got the apps we use every day. They use a phone number you don't really own, they store your data on their servers, and they collect tons of metadata. And metadata, that's the really juicy stuff, right? Who you talk to, when, where, for how long. But then you look at the other side, and VIVON just flips the script entirely. You own your identity, there are no central servers holding your chats, and that whole metadata problem, it's pretty much gone. Zero, zilch, nada. That's how many servers are sitting in the middle, storing your private conversations. When you take out the middleman, you take out the biggest vulnerability. There's just no central honeypot of data for anyone to target or steal. This whole protection plan really rests on 4 big pillars. First, self-sovereign identity, which just means you are in charge of what you share. Second, metadata gets minimized because there's no central server logging everything. Third, the encryption gets a major upgrade. You can think of it as end-to-end encryption 2.0. It doesn't just protect your message, it protects the entire context of the conversation. And finally, when you put all that together, commercial tracking and profiling becomes basically impossible.
So when you add all of this up, what do you get? It's more than just a new app. It's a fundamental shift in power. It's about taking back something we kind of lost along the way, our digital freedom.
You know, there's a quote in the source material that just hits the nail on the head. In the VIVON ecosystem, privacy is not a setting, it is a mathematical certainty. It's not a switch you have to remember to flip on or something you have to hope the company is doing right. In a system without middlemen, it's just baked into the math of how it all works. Privacy is the default, not an afterthought.
So let's end with this. I'll leave you with this to think about. In a world where your online self is no longer just rented from some giant corporation, a world where you actually hold the keys to your own digital identity, what new possibilities open up? What would you build or create or do with that kind of freedom?